Hey everyone, I'm Jill Broadbent and I'm here in the Scrapbook.com studios today to share a layout I made using some fun Scrapbook.com exclusive products as well as some Doodlebug products. All right, we are going to start by using some of these really fun paper collections from Scrapbook.com. I've got two 6x8 paper pads. I've got the Sunny Lane paper collection and the Sherbet collection, as well as the Slimline cardstock from the Sherbet collection. And this works perfectly for the cardstock strips that I'm going to work with. And then we are going to use a few different dies, the Slimline dies of the stitching patterns. And then we're also using the Modern Alphabet die, and this is one that you will use again and again. It's such a classic clean font, and it comes with lowercase and uppercase. Then I used the Jewel sticker book. This again has just tons of different stickers. Here's all the fun stickers that come in this collection. And then we've got some really cute products from Doodlebug Design. This collection is called Hello Again, and we've got the bits and pieces, the odds and ends, just fun die cut pieces. And I've also got a couple other fun embellishments from Doodlebug. We've got the shape sprinkles from Hello Beautiful, and then the sprinkles from Hello Again. So we've got just fun embellishments that are going to pull in the colors that we're using from the Scrapbook.com pattern paper, and it all works together beautifully. All right, so we're going to pull out a few different pattern papers that I think work really well from these two collections. From Sherbet, I'm going to pull out this fun polka dot, and I love that these pattern papers give you a smaller scale pattern on one side and a larger scale on the other. That works beautifully in card making, but it's also so helpful in scrapbooking to be able to have that variety. And we're actually going to use this smaller scale on this. So I've pulled out a polka dot. I am always a fan of mixing dots, stripes, and then some other fun pattern. In this collection, we're using this cute orange gingham. And then I'm going to move into, these are all really fun patterns, but I found one in Sunny Lane that I thought was so fun to pull in all the different colors that we're going to be using. I wanted to use this piece here because I loved the horizontal stripe on this, and I also felt like it pulled in every color that I'm pulling in from the rest of the Sherbet collection. So it's so nice that they have the coordinating option, but it's also fun to mix and match and pull from multiple collections. So then from the cardstocks, there is this option in 6x8 size, but this size worked perfectly for what I was going to do, so I stuck with the Slimline cardstocks, and we're going to grab this really fun bright pink. We're going to grab the turquoise in the lighter shade. You can see there's a darker shade and a lighter. We're going to use the lighter here. And from there, then we're going to work with these pieces to create a really fun layout. What you're going for, as you can see here in my finished layout, is that we're just building a center-focused layout with lots of different movement and pattern happening through the different papers that we collected and used on this project. And you can see that what helps that not feel like I just matted this with maybe a 9x9 piece of paper is that we have all the different layers and edges and different lengths and different widths, and that together is what is going to bring such really fun interest and visual focus to the center of this layout. So I'm going to give you the measurements as I cut these pieces of paper down, but honestly you can just play around making sure some are higher, wider, shorter, all the different things. The variety is what you're going for here. All right, from the orange plaid piece, I cut one piece down to a 3" by 8" piece. And then I have another piece that is 1" by 7 1/4. So again, we're getting different varieties in widths and lengths. Then I have from the striped pattern paper, I'm just using two pieces. Each of them are 3/4 of an inch wide, and one of them will be 9 1/4 and one of them will be 7 1/4. I haven't cut it down yet, but we'll trim it as we go when we build that layout. And then from the polka dot paper, I have a 2" by 7 1/4. So with these different pieces, I've also got the cardstock that I'm leaving whole, the full length of that slimline piece. And then from the turquoise cardstock, again, I'm leaving that hole so that I can work with those. So the next thing I did to add some detail to the paper is I went through with this fun slimline die and added the stitching marks. It's a subtle detail, but you can see that it adds really fun detail, dimension, and some fun movement. And as I started to play with them, I thought, all of these are really cute. So I went ahead and put every single one of the dies lined up just as it is on its carrier sheet to create almost like a tone-on-tone background on this cardstock. And so we're going to go ahead and cut that out. I also then went through on some of these other pieces and I added some of the different stitch marks on each of these. So again, it's subtle, but it's really going to add that nice finished detail. On a layout that's simple like this, you're looking for just ways that you can just add something that adds a little bit more interest to it. So let's go ahead and use these slimline dies, and we're going to cut it onto this cardstock here. And look how perfectly this all lines up. We are going to just grab each one of these dies and layer it on. I love that you can use these on cards. I also think they're perfect for using on a scrapbook page. And even on my finished layout, I did go through with some thread and stitch through some of these, which they are working holes on your page. So if you want to add that extra detail of adding the stitch marks or the actual stitching, then you can absolutely do that. And if you want to just do the nice and easy look of the stitching with the dies, we've got you covered there too. And then before I run them through the die machine, I will just make sure they're all straight and we'll add some mint tape to hold them all in place. I'm going to add some of the wide 4-inch mint tape. I'm going to start up top and we'll follow it down and make sure they're straight at the bottom as well. And if they're not perfectly straight, it's still going to look really fun. All right, we are going to take the Rose Quartz Scouts that's designed by Spellbinders with Scrapbook.com. How cute is this machine? And it is perfect for doing our die cuts today. So it works great for slim lines. We're going to take our entire piece, put it in our little sandwich here, and then run this whole piece through at one time. And just know that with this stitching die, it is just made to do just that, little stitching lines. It's not going to cut out individual strips, which is what I love about it, because then you can use it, even if I were making this on a card or I needed the stitch marks to go the other direction, I could do that. I could easily turn the die and go this way and work it any different way I want, because it's just adding the stitch marks alone, and you can see how fun that is. So we've got that, and then there's just a few that I went ahead and stitched as well. You can see on this one here, I did the little dashed strip. On this one, I did the dotted strip. And on this piece here, I did the zigzag. And a couple I left plain. Again, this is just where you play around and have fun with how much texture you want to add, how much little detail you want to add. It's just really fun to play with these products. So then I wanted my layout to have the nice white base, but I also wanted that pop of orange, and this is Tangerine from Doodlebug. And so I'm going to cut down my white base just enough that I get that really fresh pop of orange that goes around the corners. So I went ahead and trimmed off 1/2 inch off of 2 sides of my white cardstock. And that's going to give me 1/4 inch frame on that base. We're going to take the tangerine and then we're going to mat it with this white cardstock. And you can see that's just going to give me a really nice frame and pull in that tangerine color that we're using throughout the layout. So then you can just start layering in your different pieces here. We've got that really fun bright raspberry. We've got the piece that we ran through the die cut machine. And then we've got stripes. And what I did with the stripes is I kept them on either side this way, so that again, you're kind of cheating when you're using 6x8 paper. It's not cheating, it's really smart actually, because you're able to extend the product and not waste a lot of paper, but have that look that you've got all this extra paper when you're working with smaller sizes. So by doing this, you can see I'm going to layer in some of these other pieces, and then when these will match each other, it feels like a piece of paper is going all the way throughout the back of the layout, but you're really just using some little strips. Same with this one here. So before I start putting everything in place, I wanted just a little bit of added texture to these papers so that they didn't lay just perfectly flat. There's lots of different ways you could distress them. You could run ink along the edges to give them a little bit of color. You can really distress them lots of different ways, but one thing I like to do is just take my fingernail and just make sure you're staying perpendicular to your paper so you don't get a paper cut under your fingernail, but I just want those edges roughed up, just the long edges. And I just use my fingernail to go across those edges enough that it's curling the edge up, but it's not really adding a ton of distress. So I wanted this layout to feel clean, so I don't need a ton of extra distressing, but you can see that just running that quick little fingernail down the side is curling the edge just enough that when I layer them on top of each other, you get that definite look between the papers. So I do this a lot. I just think it's quick and easy, and it really does add a lot to it. All right, so now we're going to take all those pieces that we prepped and build our layout. So we've got our different cut pieces, and I've got the one that has the fun little stitching marks. I've got my cardstock piece that I'm keeping as is. And as I start to build this base, the trick is that your 6x8 paper can only be 8 inches long, right? But sometimes you're going to want to fill more of that space. So the easy way to get around that is to take some of those pieces, and then you'll be able to just cut through them and arrange them so that the seam is hidden and it will feel like one continuous piece. So here we are going to just hand cut this. I know I've just got a little bit of each of these that I need to poke out of the bottom. You could absolutely do this with your paper trimmer, but I'm basically giving myself some added space that then I'll cover with my title piece that's going to go vertical. So we will, or horizontal, these are going vertical, and I'm going to do it on this one as well. And so then I can use these to make my page cover a lot more space and get that real estate that I want in the vertical length that I can't get because the paper is 8 inches, but we can cheat the eye and make it work. So I'm going to start with the turquoise with the fun stitches, and we're going to adhere this one down, and I'm going to come over about 2.5 inches and then down about 1 inch for that one. And that's going to kind of give me my first base that then I can build around. And so same with this bottom piece. And see, my stitch didn't quite go all the way, and that's not a problem because I can just turn it and use this, which means I would want to go ahead and make that a perfectly straight edge. So let's do that. There we go. Then I can use this bottom piece and line that up, and it's going to be 1 inch from the bottom. And now my strip of paper feels a lot longer visually. So then I'm going to do the same thing with this cardstock here. We're going to layer this one on next. And I want to overlap it about halfway across the center of this 3-inch piece and about 1/2 inch down. Again, these are just kind of eyeball measurements, but it helps to just kind of build things together. And then we'll do the same thing where we're just going to use a little bit of that space to break that up. Then I want to add this fun little stitch detail along with this one. And the more things overlap, the more it feels like it's all meant to just kind of marry together and be purposeful. So I'm going to take this one here, again, kind of coming in about 1 inch to the left and about 1/2 inch down. And then I want this strip to kind of cut through, overlapping my pink and overlapping the polka dots. and probably actually not quite that high. Again, that's just kind of like seeing where everything kind of comes together and what you're liking about those different components. Then I've got this piece here that I'm going to tuck in right alongside this piece. And we'll put our little bottom piece on here as well. Same thing, I'm gonna grab my paper trimmer. Because the stitch marks are on that, I want those, if I flipped it upside down, which you normally could do, it won't line those stitches up. So now I've got that nice straight edge, and then I can just extend this down just a little bit. And then we'll kind of build this side of the layout. And so here I've got the orange piece, and I add that fun little die cut piece that we put through there with the stitching. And this is going to overlap these and also extend this way just a little bit. And we'll add our last little stripe piece tucked in here along the side. And I want that to be a little bit up from the bottom. So we'll tuck it in just like that. And that's creating our base. So then I know that I'm going to put my title piece and my photo, and this area right here is going to be covered. But you can see that even here with what we've built, we've added so much color, so much pattern, and it's keeping everything in the center so that you're focused on what's happening in the middle. So I know that I want my photo to be a 4x4. I love using a nice square photo when I'm just doing one photo, and especially where I've got things that are going to run horizontally and vertically across the page, then the photo becomes a square focus right in the middle. I'm going to use the pocket card dies, and there's two different pieces on this die cut piece. You've got a 4-inch and a 2-inch square. And this allows you, if I had my photo here, you'd be able to just center it right over the area of the photo that you wanted to center. And I can just run this through. So this is going to be my photo placeholder. And you'll get a perfect 4x4 every time. So I've got that to help me kind of frame everything up. Okay, so I know I want my photo to just go kind of off center here, and then I'm going to work on my title piece. So we are going to take the alphabet die. So I'm going to cut my title, and I want it to say together. That's going to give me a nice long title, and I loved the idea of using all the lowercase. So I went ahead and cut the word together out of the orange color in the Sherbet Slimline cardstock. So that worked perfectly. Okay, so I'm taking some white cardstock, and I'm going to add my title directly to the cardstock. So I like to use the Artiste craft glue when I'm adding on small details like this. And we're just going to attach each letter. I want to add about a 1/2 inch on either side of the letter. And so we're going to glue each of these down, and then we'll trim it out and make a little banner piece. Now that I've got that title all glued down, I'm going to cut the strip. So I'm just going to cut this off so that I have just a little bit of a nice white border on either side of my letters. And I'm going to give myself about 2 inches extra on this edge so that I can dovetail that and make it like a banner. So I'm simply going to cut up right through the center, and then from corner to middle and corner to middle again to get that nice finished banner edge. And then we're going to mat this on the cardstock from the Slimline Sherbet collection again. And I'm going to grab that lighter blue shade. Such a pretty soft turquoise. And then I'm going to mat this onto the cardstock. Using one edge as a straight edge. Then I can trim off that extra piece right here. I'm going to trim it a tiny bit more because it's not. There we go. And then I will just dovetail this end as well. And so it's got that nice bright matte. Just like that. I can trim this off. We're going to add some embellishment on this end of our title, so that becomes our finished title piece. So now I can add this piece down across my page, and you can see how that's hiding all of those seams that I used to help lengthen my paper. That's going to give me a nice visual effect too, to break up all the linear vertical lines. The nice long horizontal title is helping to just break all of that up just a little bit. So I'm going to attach this with some foam tape. And I've got this roll from Scrapbook.com. I'm going to put a nice thick band of foam tape right here across the back. And we'll pop this on just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the piece that my photo is going to attach to. I want to put some foam tape on the back here. And I want this to just kind of overlap this title piece. So again, once I have a photo here, you'll have the color and all of that detail. But here you can see I can line it up with the T's, and I kind of looked for this corner between the T and the H. That's going to let this kind of nestle. So that's where I was working on for my photo placement, was how it can kind of become a part of this title piece. You want to look for opportunities where your eye sees things as a whole, even though there's multiple things going on. So by overlapping my photo mat and nestling it into my title, then that's all going to feel cohesive when it's all together. Together being the key word on this project. So now we're going to embellish it. We've got all of our base created. We've got our nice bold title. We've got all the fun pattern paper. And now we'll embellish with some of the fun pieces from Doodlebug. So I've put all of my Doodlebug embellishments into these stack and sort trays, and I love that there's multiple sizes and that they nest so well together. So I've got some pieces down here in the bottom. I've got the sprinkles that I can use that are more of the epoxy elements that we'll add to the page. And then in the smaller trays, I've got the two different collections from Doodlebug for all of these embellishments. You can see how many fun, colorful pieces there are that we can shop through and really use to bring this page to life. So I'm going to look for a couple floral clusters. I'm working to embellish my page in a visual triangle. So I want to make sure there are 3 different spots that are surrounding my photo that are going to bring your eye again into this center area. So I'm going to add a cluster of embellishment here, one here, and one up in this top corner. And that's really going to pull everything together and break up all of these straight lines. So first we'll look for some fun pieces that we can put in the corner, and honestly, anything in this fun collection will work. So here is a fun one that has a couple of the different flowers and the butterfly. And I like this one because it's using all of the exact same colors that I had in my pattern papers. I've got that bright pink, the fun orange, a little bit of yellow, and this green and turquoise are going to be just the perfect detail here. I'm going to use some other thinner foam tape to build that up just a little bit. And I'm going to place this just to this left side of my title. So I'm added some dimension with that foam tape, and then I can still continue to embellish around that. But for now, I'm going to move over and do the same concept on this corner here. So again, we're looking for some florals. And this time I'm going to mix and match a lot of these smaller pieces. Here's a cute little individual flower. I love this gold leaf. I think that's a fun detail and the fun touch that there's gold kind of pulling throughout. So we'll use a gold leaf. And then I also want to bring in some of that green as well. There is a green stripe in that pattern paper, and the only other places that we're going to see the green is in these pops of leaves. So we'll add a few there, and then I'm still looking for, and then I've got this fun cluster of the small blue flower here as well. So you can mix and match any of these. There's so many options, lots of different sizes and varieties, and that makes it really fun. I liked the idea of these smaller pieces balancing out kind of this larger cluster over here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this with some foam tape. And I'm going to put that just off to the corner here. These aren't glued in yet. We'll just put this one right up here into the corner. And then I'm going to attach this one down, tucking it under this way a little bit as well. And then these leaves are going to come out from underneath my banner. Just like that. And I want this to feel like a cluster of 3, so we're going to finish that off as well with some of these fun details here. So these flowers match, they're just a different texture, which also adds a lot of visual interest to your page when you start to mix in and add some shine and add some dimension. So I'm going to fill in some of these spaces with these cute little sticker flowers. And I want a little bit of all the colors represented. So I'm going to add each of those. And then again, to bring in a little bit more of this gold, we're going to scatter in some of these cute little stars. And so that I have 3 things that are gold, I'm also going to add this fun small gold leaf as well. And we'll tuck that right under here. And you can see how much detail that adds to that fun little cluster. Now let's go ahead and add some of these fun embellishments over here as well. I'm going to take this light pink and fill in there. I even look for the ways that the little petals can nestle together. It's just small little details, but it makes it feel, again, like one cohesive piece. Then I'm going to add a cute little star right in there as well. We'll add another one of these leaves coming off this side. Pull in a couple more of these little scattered flowers. And again, you can do as much or as little as you want. It's just really fun to start embellishing this way. Then I'm going to move up to my top cluster. Again, I've got plenty of flowers. I could absolutely just add another cluster of flowers and make this all balanced that way. I went ahead and tried some of the pieces from this other collection here because my photo specifically was from a trip at a fun resort, and so it felt beachy and bright, and so I wanted to use the sun and the clouds. If your photo doesn't lend itself to that, then absolutely just build another cluster of florals and it will be beautiful. But I thought that these pieces were really fun, and there are just so many different shapes and options. There's rainbows, and there's calendars and little flowers and mugs and all kinds of things. A bicycle, lots and lots of details. So pretty much any theme you'll be able to document. I loved this camera too. I thought that was super fun. So lots and lots of pieces. I'm going to find 2 of the clouds, and I loved that they were light in the white color, but then they had the gold detail with the polka dots. All right, so here you can see I've got these fun clouds with the fun gold detailing on that. Just a nice little touch. And then I've got a couple options for the sun. I am going to go with the polka dot sun because it's going against this plaid paper, so I feel like this is a better choice, and then it ties in with the polka dot clouds and this polka dot paper here. So again, just fun details that you can add however you'd like. I'm going to adhere the sun directly to my paper, and this is going to cover this top left corner just slightly. And then the clouds I'll put on with some foam tape. Now keep in mind my photo is already lifted, so when I put foam tape on the cloud, I'm going to keep it to the top portion of the cloud, and that way it'll lay flat as it overlaps my photo, and also because this layout doesn't have a photo, then I can slide that photo in later. So if you're ever building layouts prior to having the photo you want to put on it, then just go ahead and leave things that overlap your photo unadhered, and that way you can add that later. So on this first cloud, I just used the 1mm foam tape, which gave it just a little bit of raise. But to make my clouds have a little bit more depth, for the smaller cloud, I'm going to use the 3mm, and that's going to let me layer the layered pieces even more. So we'll put just a tiny bit of this. Again, the photo I'm going to protect, so I'll just put the foam tape off to the side here, and then this is going to overlap. You can see that just layering different widths of foam tape, you're going to get even more dimension, and that feels kind of like your clouds would be in the sky, just a little bit layered in front of each other. So to finish it off, I'm just going to add some of these little sprinkles. We've got multiple options, and you can just kind of play around. I'm pulling in that pretty turquoise color. I like to just slide them off the carrier sheet with my finger because then I can hold it exactly where I want it. I'll stick one right in here. A nice cluster of 3, we'll finish that off. Then we'll move down here, and I'm just going to do 1 because I've also got all those other little pieces that are scattering. So that finishes off all the embellishment. The last thing I did, lots of times I like to add really detailed journaling. Sometimes I want my journaling to stay pretty simple. And on this one, I thought it was really fun to just pull in some of the words that I loved from the sticker book and using them to the side of my photo. So that's going to give me another horizontal element to this page. And the Jewel sticker book has a lot of colors that work really well with this kit. So sometimes you have to look beyond the overall color scheme and find the details that work with what your project is. And the words in this collection were perfect. And so I went ahead and pulled in some of the orange toned ones and the pink ones, and mixing those in worked perfectly with this collection. So you can see we've got lots of fun options. I'm going to start with This Was Magic. This was a trip to the Dominican Republic. It was pretty magical, and it was perfect for this layout. I'm adding some foam tape behind this one. And I'm going to put the edges of all the stickers underneath my photo mat so that, again, it pulls it all together. Then Together Forever was a perfect one. And this one, I'm going to put just a little bit of foam tape on the far corner. That way it's going to attach down to the page and then come up on the end. So that gives it just a little bit of movement even through that small sticker. Then I'm going to take Sunny Days, and there are so many good generic words that work for so many different topics in these stickers, so they're a great tool to use and just look for any sentiment you might need. Sunny Days, then I'm going to find You and Me, some foam tape on that one. So the Sunny Days I put directly down to the page. And this one I'm popping up just a little bit. So again, it's just adding that variety even in the smallest of details. Okay, and my last one is In This Moment, and I loved the orange. So I went orange, then pinks in the middle, and then this rose gold, which I think tied in perfectly with the gold elements too, the pink and the gold together. And on this one, again, I'm going to put foam tape just on the end. Finish that off. So here you can see the layout is complete. I'm going to bring in my finished layout with the photo so you can see it all come together, and you can see again all the different elements of a very simple layout come together through just some smart design choices. Keeping all the vertical as our background, keeping all the horizontal as our top layering, and then adding those 3 areas of embellishment really dress up this page in really simple ways. Thank you so much for joining me in creating this fun layout. I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of these techniques and different ideas for your design elements, and hopefully you'll be able to put this into practice into one of your next layouts. For all the products that we used in this video, you can find the links below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the Scrapbook.com YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.